share my screen. Right. Oops. All right. Hopefully you can all see my screen. All right. Well, we want to get started. We are really excited to have you here with us today. I'm JD Maxwell. I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois Farmers Market Association. And you can see by the class schedule for this series that we are on week 3, being a good market vendor, a farmers market manager panel. And we're very excited to have 3 market managers with us today to share their insights. And then we also have some other ILFMA board members on the call as well, so they may be able to share some of their insights as well. I'm just going to give you a super quick overview of Illinois Farmers Market Association so that you know where to find resources and get the information you need moving forward. All right, so as I said, if you wouldn't mind putting your name, maybe your location, what products you sell, if you sell at a market, which one, in the chat, that would be great, so we all get to know you a little bit. We usually talk a little bit about both of the host organizations, and then we'll move right into the meat of the presentation. All right, Farmers Market Association, you can see our mission statement, but we basically do 3 things. We provide training and education and the best practices for running a farmer's market. We want everyone to be able to take their market to their own next level of excellence, whatever that looks like for an individual market. We think there are over 300 and some markets here in Illinois. None of them are the same. Each one is unique and different and represents the community that hosts it. And so we want not to make a cookie cutter approach, but instead to make sure that everybody has the resources they need for their market. And ILFMA also tries to stand in the gap and address barriers that market vendors and farmers market managers find. And we also try to just assist all facets of the local food system, trying to encourage its growth overall. And then we promote markets. There's so many benefits to being a part of a farmer's market, and we try and just let the general public know all those great things. We do provide education and training, as I said. We really encourage you to attend the Everything Local Conference down in Springfield this year. It is January 29th through 31st. There are tracks for everything. Teach you how to grow particular products, how to market, how to deal with your own business issues. If you're in the farmers market world, we have 16 tracks that are dedicated to farmers market management. So there's a wide variety of things, whether you're a vendor, whether you're a part of the local food system, whether you're a part of farmers markets, that I think everyone would benefit from, especially benefiting from being in the room and having networking opportunities with so many people that are doing such great work. I think it's just a great opportunity to gain ideas and to continue to work together to build the local food system here in Illinois. We offer a certified farmers market manager course. It helps market managers maybe who are new or beginning, or maybe they've been doing it a while but just want to refresh on understanding what are the best practices, and then at the end of it coming out with hopefully a lot of the management tools that you need to be successful. Maybe you need a marketing plan or an emergency plan, or just some help with your rules and regulations. This is the kind of class that we offer. It is 8 weeks, and it does meet for 2.5 hours on Monday evenings from February through the end of March. We will be doing a market meetup where we just go visit farmers markets. We're looking to schedule some winter markets in a couple different locations across the state. And we are a membership organization, so we would appreciate your membership, but we try and give some perks back. And one is discounts on programs and events. But we'd also just like you to stay connected to ILFMA and find out about what's going on. So there's a link at the bottom. If you go to our website, which is ilfma.org, up in the right corner, there's a tab News, and that will give you a place to sign up for our newsletter. We do a lot of different work, but I think one of the things that may be most helpful to this group is the resource page. It's a resource tab that is on the website. Particularly, we've been posting the PowerPoint PDFs and other resources, as well as the recordings of these sessions on the website. So please check out everything that's there. Hopefully you can find some answers to your questions. And if not, just reach out. We'd like to see everybody take advantage of some free marketing opportunities to become part of a statewide, actually even national database of local food producers and markets. It's called Market Maker. If you go to our website, you can find a way to sign up for that. But now there's also a new initiative that's coming from the Illinois Department of Agriculture, where you can identify yourself as a farmer's market or a vendor that uses Illinois ingredients or sells Illinois ingredients. And you can also be included as an Illinois grown vendor. And that can be good for your business to be affiliated and part of a wider search engine that's looking for Illinois grown products. So enough about ILFMA. Anthony, do you want to talk a little about Good Food Accelerator?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and I'll be brief because I know we want to get to the panel here. Yeah, so hi everybody. I'm Anthony Adams. Good Food Accelerator is one of the partners putting on this program here, putting on this series. I'm the program coordinator. So as an organization, we provide a lot of business training for really anybody involved in the good food space, entrepreneurs, farmers, producers, makers. These programs can be either in person at our office in East Garfield Park or remote, like this particular series is. So really our goal is to bring business tools and business resources connections to, farmers like yourselves, entrepreneurs like yourselves, and just best equip you to succeed in your businesses and grow your brands, as strong as possible. So I will include our website in the chat here, so you can all, check that out and look into us further if you'd like. We'll be releasing more of our programming updates coming up for 2025 in the next few months, and really just appreciate you all being here and hope to see you at some of the GFA and ILFMA events in the future. So thank you.
All right. Well, let's dive in. Today we're going to talk about being a good market vendor. If you are currently participating in a market, we're going to talk from that perspective, but then we're also going to talk from the perspective of potentially you're looking to find a new market for the upcoming season, and we'll talk about that. So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel. Rachel, if you would introduce yourself. I don't want to leave out any of your awesomeness when I introduce people, and we'll have Joan and Tessina do it as well. So our format is going to be Rachel's going to address this question. Joan has some input. We'll ask Tessina for some input. And then if you have questions while this is going on, please put them in the chat, and I'll try and navigate that and make sure that we have an opportunity to address those. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to you, Rachel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Bowen. I am the manager of Glenwood Sunday Market here in Rogers Park. I have been the market manager of Glenwood Sunday Market since 2020, but I actually have been involved with the market since around 2013 when I moved to Rogers Park. Actually, I was a volunteer. And then when I decided to change my career, I became a volunteer when I moved to Rogers Park. So yeah, and now I run the market. So I wanted to come on here and talk about being a good vendor within the market season. So I'm going to share some slides and just do a little quick deep dive into that and just show you based on my perspective, what as a market manager, what I see, and hopefully give some indication moving forward on what you guys can take from this moving into your careers as vendors going into your market season. So I'm going to share my screen. Cool. View slideshow. Okay, can we all see it? Awesome. Cool. Okay, so first up, one of the things that I look for as a market manager, especially during the market season, with my vendors is a friendly and professional customer service. That means that when you're at the market, you are approachable. That means smiling, you're greeting our customers, you are engaging in conversations, because at our market, we see around 2,000 people a week. That's a lot of people that are coming through. So that means that people are coming up to your booths, whether they're just saying hi, whether you're shopping. You may not always be making a sale, but you're making an important conversation with them. There are people who can be your future customers. There are people who are going to be telling people about you. You never know what type of impact you're making on a person. So I am always looking for vendors who are making that commitment, because Rogers Park is definitely a huge community base. And so I'm always looking for vendors who are making that impact within our community. And also patience, because there's so many different types of people who come to farmers markets. There are people who are ready to buy, there are ready people who are ready to shop, and there are people who are ready just to, take their time. Not everyone is there to do shop, shop, shop. Some people want to just take their time. Some people just want to lounge around. So yeah, definitely having that professional, friendly customer service is something I do look for with a lot of my vendors, and I watch it. I watch how people interact. I do lots of checks. I walk around every single hour. I see how people react to my vendors. I see how people talk to my vendors, and I see how my vendors talk to certain people as well. So I'm definitely always looking out for that. And problem solving skills. You know, not everyone's going to be the nicest, and not everyone is going to have the most professional conversations. And I mostly step in at that point. But handling a complaint or handling an issue professionally until I get there is something I expect as a business person. You are, at the end of the day, a business owner of your um, booth. So until someone is able to step in for that, I expect you to be able to at least handle a interaction until I can hold on to that. So again, just being able to be friendly and professional at the end of the day is what I'm always looking for at my farmer's market. And then having a knowledge of your products, because you are selling your products and you need to be ready to answer questions about your products, such as where you may have things grown, sourced, or made. As you can see in front of me, this is Rebecca's Confections. She was our first cottage food vendor that I brought on this year. And she can tell you down to her flour where it was produced. She can tell you where her pecans came from, which farm. She can tell you where her honey was harvested. These are things that people are starting to look for and care for when they're coming to farmers markets. And these are things that they're starting to ask questions about. So as you're starting to come into the farmers market game as a vendor, make sure you're starting to find that personal touch and that local touch of where you're sourcing your materials. So you're not just sourcing it from the big name stores or the big name grocery outlets, because people are going to start wanting to know that it's locally sourced. So I care about that a lot with my products and with my vendors. So when we have vendors coming in, I do ask them, hey, your peach pie, did you happen to go trade off peaches this week with one of our farms? So these are things that I'm asking to have knowledge of with my vendors, so that, when our customers come up, oh my gosh, I love the fact that my cobbler this week was made from not only a farm at my market, but this baker came to that. So it's a nice way to have that personal touch. So it's another thing that our customers are taking away from that local consistency, and not all, and that local economic standpoint too, that it's coming from your home per se. Because for us, local is 200 miles. So it doesn't have to be as close as you think it is, but it feels really close to home within that area. And then reliability and commitment. This should be my number one, but I made it number three. Consistency, showing up on time and being regular. Customers value dependability. Preparedness, making sure you have enough in your stock, even bags and other essentials, and cleanliness, keeping your area tidy. We make sure that all of our vendors take their trash out with them because we don't have dumpsters that are ours. So you need to take your trash out with you. But consistency is actually my number one. I do reject vendors from coming back in a yearly basis if they have tardiness or absences. With us, our customers expect you to be here every single week. If you are coming into our market expecting to be there for 3 weeks, we're not going to be expecting you. We're a 20-week market. People want you there for 20 weeks. So we understand there are things that happen, staff gets sick, cars break down. However, I have a cell phone, I have an email. Make sure that you are consistently in touch with your manager. Make sure you are consistently reaching out to that person who's in charge, and you're prepared for situations like that, because it shows. If you're a no call, no show, it's going to stick and people are going to talk about it, because who gets cited for it? It's the managers. I'm the one who a person will come up to be like, well, how come so-and-so's not here today? Well, I'm not going to shit on you to the next person, because I'll be like, you know what? It's an unfortunate event, but I'm the one that people are going to be coming up to all day asking where you are. So you need to make sure that you're being reliable and committing to your markets, because it shows that if you're not there every single week, or you can't commit to it, you got to figure it out, because at least for our market, that is a huge thing. And our customers want people there every single week. And then last but not least, a strong marketing and branding. Branding, make sure you have clear signage at your markets that reflect what your identity is, having your name on things, showing prices. If you're able to offer samples, make sure if you're offering samples, you have the right rules and regulations. Take your summer sanitation classes for that. Or having small deals to attract buyers, and social media. Make sure you have any type of social media, whether it's an Instagram or a Facebook. This is one of our vendors, and it may be small, but every single week she posted and tagged us on Facebook of what her stuff was. And it did such a great job. And I loved her for it. And again, we may be the market, but it's also not our job to be selling your product, though. We are also a major organization that we're selling ourselves. We're selling the market. It's not our job to continually sell you. You also have a job to sell yourself. So you are out the market. You should be tagging us so we can be reblogging you, reposting you. You should be making the effort as well if you're committing yourself to a farmer's market. So yeah, those are a couple of things that I think make a good vendor during the market season at a farmer's market.
All right, thank you, Rachel. I'm going to have Joan and Tessina introduce themselves, and then ask them if they have any additional comments about what they look for from their markets. So Joan, do you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Joan Oberndorf. I'm the market manager for the Andersonville Farmers Market. I'll talk a little bit more about our market in a second. I think that Rachel makes great points throughout. I will probably mirror some of what she's saying in my part of the presentation. The only thing that I would say that I think is such a key point for me, and I think it's a great thing to remember as a vendor, is that every market is different. And every market's in a different place in its journey in a way. Some markets are newer, some markets are bigger, some markets are older. And so I think it's really great to have that 360 view and, realize that for some markets, things that are really impactful or really important to them, I think there's sort of a baseline, but also every market's different. So, I feel like it's always a good thing to keep in mind when you're part of a market, when you're applying to a market, and when you're looking at markets that you want to apply to, trying to weigh your chances as well. Because sometimes a newer market is going to be a lot more accessible than a market that's a little bit more established, or, so there's a lot of components. But I think Rachel made excellent points. And yeah, and I'm going to let Tessina take it over.
Thank you, Joan. Yeah, I agree. Rachel kind of covered a lot of the things that I look for current vendors. So, before I jump into it, let me introduce myself. Hello, everybody. My name is Tissina Williams. I am the Hyde Park Farmers Market Manager for the 23-24 season. I started in 2021, and I am now serving as our program manager for community development, still assisting with the farmers market, but I'm happy to be here. So when I'm looking for current vendors, much like what Rachel said, always looking for reliability. If that vendor consistently delivers as promised, being present during market hours, and also maintaining a steady inventory. I also look for vendors that are flexible. Our site is an outdoor site located in the parking lot of the Hyde Park Bank, and they are very gracious to allow us to use that site. But because it is a parking lot, there are some times where we have cars or all kinds of unexpected things that happen, and it is always a blessing to have a vendor that understands that we may have to be flexible and adapt to some changes just due to weather or cars or the community, things that are happening in the community. So just being able to adapt to those kinds of challenges with a positive attitude and also some problem solving abilities as well are things that I look for. I also try to look for vendors that also work collaboratively with other vendors and with the management, and those things just help overall the entire customer experience. So a lot of our vendors at our market, we help each other set up, we send each other customers, if a tent is blowing down the street, everybody is running, it's all hands on deck. And that is one of the things that I enjoy about our market. And then lastly, I would say I also look for like innovation. So in some cases, I can have a lot of oversaturation in some areas of like wellness and baked goods. So if there is a vendor that has a product that is something that we have a gap in, I'm always looking for that kind of person. So for instance, we had a vendor that offered gluten-free baked treats. And that was a huge addition to our market because we do have a population of people that can have gluten items and need gluten-free sweets. And so just those kinds of things are what I look for current vendors for our market.
Great, thank you all. There is a question in the chat, and I think this is probably an important one. Is it important to accept cash at markets? Can you want to just talk about overall currency and what you would expect from your vendors, and maybe even include Link or Wicker senior coupons in that as well?
Yeah, at least for our market, pre-COVID, we used to do currency. Not all of our vendors accepted cash, and so that you could come to us and spend your debit card and we would give you currency to spend as cash. But then when COVID happened, we actually made it required that all of our vendors start using a credit card system, and that has not changed. So all of our vendors now accept card and cash going into our system. So that hasn't changed. So at least at the Glenwood Sunday Market, all of our vendors now accept cards and cash. And we also still do our Link system as well.
Yeah, I would second that. And I would say that we did very much the same thing. Cash was really problematic during COVID, if anyone can remember that. And so we no longer, we used to do what Rachel's describing in terms of we had a terminal that we would use for credit debit transactions, and we'd give out tokens that people could use the same as cash at the market. We no longer do that, and we do have all of our vendors accept credit debit and cash. We also do the Link program, same as what Rachel is saying, and it's mandatory that you take part in that program. And then we also do have farmers and a honey vendor who accept the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program coupons. That is a separate program, and that is directly vendor to the program. vendors have to apply to be part of that. So we basically are an information source for that, because people will often come to our booth and be like, what are these and where can I spend them? And then we send them directly to the vendor. The vendors take those checks and then they deposit them the same as they would a regular paper check.
For Hyde Park Farmers Market, we ask that our vendors, accept cash as well as electronic forms of payment. And then if they are eligible, then the SNAP and link match. So we try to offer all forms of payment if at all possible, but cash for sure.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, COVID pushed people into taking credit, but I think cash is still very much a currency that people have. It may be demographics. I think if you actually look at some of the striations of demographics, younger populations tend to use cards, older populations may or may not, but have been stereotyped into saying, well, they may use cash more often. And so to make sure you have what you need across the board, all of those would be required. Although it has been refreshing to see markets, all the vendors taking credit, because I don't know about you, but I'm the shopper. I'm not a farmer's market expert. I'm a farmer's market shopper expert. And on my end, I'll tell you, I spend a lot more money if it's not limited to what's in my pocket. So, any other questions about this? This kind of discussion about what makes a good market vendor during the current season?
I have a general question, and just to put it out there. Well, actually, it's two parts. One, as market managers and vendors, do you try and look for limiting the types of vendors you have? Like, do you try and just have one or two jam people, one or two bakery people, 3 or 4 fresh produce? And along the fresh produce lines, so I'm from East Central Illinois, and sweet corn is a hot commodity, very short term. And so our farmers market allows people to come in, towards the last quarter of the farmers market season to sell sweet corn only. So they don't have that requirement of the consistency of being there every week throughout the season. And I didn't know if you folks had encountered that or have some thoughts on that.
We'll
In
probably
terms
for,
of,
oh, so go, sorry, Joan.
I was just going to say, I bet you're going to say exactly what I was going to say, which is in terms of market vendor mix, that's actually something that I was going to talk about in
Yeah.
my presentation, as one of the things about, if you're hoping to get into a market. So that's a great question. In terms, and I also sort of touch a little bit on the question of if we have vendors who aren't there for the whole season. We don't do it per se with like seasonality of crop, but we do have a pop-up opportunity so that people can be there on an occasional basis. But that's not really what you're talking about. So I will back out and see if Rachel and Tessina have anything about that.
I will say that Glenwood Sunday market is catered exactly how it's supposed to be set up based on what the community has asked for. We have 6 bakeries that do its job. There are 2 main bakeries, 1 gluten-free bakery, 1 dessert baker, 1 specialty baker. We have 1 honey, 2 meat, 7 farms. So like everything is set up for a job. Everything is set up to be a grocery store. So it's very hard to get into our market as a new type of vendor because everything is catered to what the community has asked for. So yes, we definitely have picked our vendors to have a job. So everyone there is there for a reason. So hopefully that answers a little bit of a question, but that's just our market. We have one popsicle vendor, and that popsicle vendor is done in October. So we kind of have an October pop-up if we're allowed to. But other than that, everyone at Glenwood Sunday Market is there for a specific reason.
Okay, thank you.
I like that comparison to a grocery store. That's kind of cool that you can actually buy everything you need. All right. Well, we want to switch over to Joan and her presentation on potential as you're looking to think about additional markets. What might you consider? So go ahead.
Okay, let me try and share my screen. Okay. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes? Cool. Okay, so hi everybody. Hi again. As I said, I run the Andersonville Farmers Market. We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary in 2024, so that was super exciting. I have been involved with the market since we opened. I was a volunteer, similar to Rachel, the first year, and then I transitioned to being a market manager. So I have been running the market since 2010. So the focus of my talk is more about those of you who maybe aren't in a market yet, or are maybe looking to expand into more markets. And I will also say, my feeling is that, as I said earlier, this is kind of my soapbox, which is that every market is different. It's like snowflakes. So I sort of want to have the little minor disclaimer here that while I think there's some commonality in what I'm going to say, this is specific to my market and my experience as a farmer's market manager for that market. So you can see here, this is Vanjie's Farm, who has flowers and produce, and they're a great vendor. They've been part of the market for several years. Sorry, my fingers are moving too fast. Okay, there we go. So the first thing that I would just say is when I am looking at people to join the market or vendors to join the market is I look at their product. And specifically what we look for, just sort of a basic list, is something that we don't have, because that's always a terrific thing. Something that's a little different maybe. So if we have bakers and then we have a baker who does something ethnically specific, that's someone who I'm going to take a second look at. For example, we always have a lot of bakers who want to be part of the market, but we have someone who does baklava and other sort of Middle Eastern sweets. And so that sort of filled a niche for us, and she joined our market as a rotating vendor. Obviously, I want to look for something where the product is of high quality. Something that's local. Again, our market is similar to Glenwood Sunday Market in that we ask all vendors are required to grow, raise, or produce within a 200-mile radius of the market. And then the last thing is because we are, our market site is in the middle of the Andersonville Business District. Andersonville is a neighborhood on the north side of Chicago. We do have to be mindful that we're not directly competing with something in our business district, within limits. For example, we have so many places where you can get coffee in so many different iterations that we tend to not have a coffee vendor at the market, because literally you can walk 100 feet and get coffee from a local business, a small locally owned business. So that's something that we keep in mind, within limits. Again, I would say I try not to be super rigid, because if something amazing comes along. We had someone a couple of years ago who was a pop-up who did do coffee, but it was sous vide and it was in a can. And so it was sort of something different and something unusual. And, it was popular at the market. One thing I would say is that if you look at the market that you're hoping to join's guidelines or their mission statement, there can be a lot of information in there about what they are looking for. So that's always something that you can find. We have a fact sheet that's part of our application that talks pretty specifically about a lot of that. So it's a good place to get some information if you're hoping to join a market. Sorry. So the other thing that I would say is when you apply, I do look at how people apply, and and what their process is, because to me, that gives me some clues about like what kind of vendor they're going to be. So the first thing I would say is read the directions. I feel like that's what everybody always says. And but it really is true. Our application has a lot of information. As I said, we have a fact sheet, we have directions about how to apply and what we need and what information we need. So you really want to provide all that at the onset. We actually use an online platform called Manage My Market, which has you apply electronically. And basically, for vendors who are looking to apply for more than one market, you set up an account on Manage My Market, and then put in your information once, and then it can pop up for a lot of the different markets that you're applying for. So it's a really great way to do it. I would say we always ask our vendors to give us a certificate of insurance, and I don't encourage people to give us that until you've actually been accepted to the market. I don't want to make more work for you, so don't make more work for yourself as far as that goes. Please pay the application fee when you apply. I do have to chase people down for application fee. Often it's returning vendors. And there is, again, in our application, there's a way to pay it online. So it's super easy. It's great if you have questions. I am willing to answer them. I am readily available. I do give my email address. However, be mindful because I appreciate people who are mindful of my time, and sending me, bombarding me with multiple emails over many days is not going to necessarily make me it's not something that's gonna impress me or improve your chances. So you're welcome to ask questions, but just be a little mindful about what you're trying to ask. And again, read the directions, look at the information, look at our fact sheet, because often you will see an answer to your question in that. For our market, for anyone who is a prepared food vendor, we do ask for a product sample. I know not all markets do this, but I would say, and it is in our application, again, in the information. So if you're a prepared food vendor, we really do want to taste your product, because I feel like I can't tell what you're selling unless I get some idea of what it is. And then the last thing I would say is, again, be mindful of the fact that I have a lot of people who are applying, and we do have a process. We try and answer, let people know in a timely fashion if they are going to be accepted to the market. But we do have an application deadline, and I do want to see everybody's application before I start making my choices. So I really kind of appreciate the fact that you really want to know which market you're going to be in. I can really appreciate the fact if you're really excited and eager and you want to be part of my market. I get that. But also, again, starting to send me daily emails and asking me, if you're in yet, again, it's not necessarily something that is going to put you on my radar in a positive way. So increasing your odds about getting into a market. And again, I'm going to say this specifically about my market. Everybody's a little different. We have several different ways that you can be part of our market. You can be a seasonal vendor on a weekly basis, or a rotating basis, where you're there every other week. And then we also do have, as I mentioned earlier, we have a pop-up opportunity. We have 2 pop-up spaces that we schedule on an occasional basis. And often people who have newer businesses or are a new vendor to us, I will start them as a pop-up or maybe as a rotating vendor, because like Rachel said, we have a really high retention rate for our vendors. Everyone does have to apply every single year, whether you're a returning vendor or not, but we tend to have very limited space, especially for certain types of vendors. And so if you're flexible and you're ready to go, and willing to accept taking a rotating spot, even though you were hoping to be there every week, that's going to improve your chances. Again, being thoughtful about how you communicate with me is going to increase your odds. I kind of touched on that in the last slide. I've had people who have written me really like intensive, long, drawn out emails. I've had them texting me on a very regular basis, you know, how can you turn me down? And again, I know people are really passionate about what they're doing and they're passionate about their product. And I think that's great, but it's not necessarily going to increase your chances if you are bombarding me with a ton of communication. I will also tell you that we took someone one year who is still our meat vendor, who wrote me a really beautiful, very thoughtful email outlining his farm and his journey. And, it was great. And it really made me take a second look at him and made me kind of realize who he was. So, including something like that is not necessarily, it's a great thing. But again, I feel like he was incredibly thoughtful. It wasn't pages and pages and pages. It was just a really well thought out presentation of who he was and what he wanted to do. As Rachel said, we do look at websites, we look at social media. For us, it's not a deal breaker, but if you have if you have that, it's another tool for me to evaluate your business and see what you're going to, what your logo is, things like that. It is a good thing to have these days. I would also say, if I get an indication that you're, kind of self-sufficient, that's amazing, because that makes my life easier if you come into my market. But I would also say, don't be afraid to ask me for assistance. So, I mean, I know that's sort of a mixed message, but I think, I would rather have someone say, hey, I'm kind of struggling here and this is why, and can you give me a hand, than just not communicate with me. The other thing is I really want to see your product. I want to see your logo. I want to see your label. This is for prepared foods mainly. We do site visits for farms. And so, I really want to see what your product is about, particularly if you're, bringing me a sample. You don't have to bring me 5 pounds of stuff, but I want to see what it's about. But then also let your product speak for itself, because again, this goes back to like over communicating, giving me so much information and, just like trying to convince me is not always going to be convincing. And then, sorry, I don't know why I keep going the wrong direction. So finally, here's a picture of my market. You can kind of sort of see it. The traits that we value and appreciate, again, a lot of this follows what Rachel said. We really like a quality product and we like consistency in the product and in your attendance. Speaking to that, I really value communication, because as Rachel said, things happen. We do not penalize people if they don't show up. But if you don't show up and you don't tell me why, it's going to make me really not necessarily want to ask you back in the future. I value people who are really team players and sort of buy in with the community. I feel like our farmers market is a community. I feel like what Tessina said also tracks in that, we have vendors who help each other out. We have vendors, if the weather gets inclement and we have to close down, everybody pitches in. People do product sharing where, the baklava vendor who I mentioned will go to the person who's selling East Indian spices and will make a chai baklava. And I think our customers really like that too. Accepting what's offered in terms of your space, your location, your frequency. I know that you may have your heart set on being a certain place in the market or wanting to be there a certain amount of time. But if you accept what you're offered initially, it's going to really increase your chances to be able to be part of our community. And then the last thing I would say is, and this may sound like a no-brainer, please pay your fee in a timely way. That goes back to, paying your fee for application, and we actually ask for fees either upfront or we give a couple. You can do it over time and do a couple installments. If I have to chase you down for your fee, it just really makes my life more difficult, especially during the market season when I have limited bandwidth. So those are all the things. And then the last thing I would just ask is to remember that my job is to support my vendors and support my market and provide a safe and successful space for everyone. So that includes vendors, that includes shoppers, that includes volunteers, that includes musicians. If you can keep in mind the bigger picture, I find that really helpful, and I really very much appreciate that. So that's kind of it.
All right, thank you, Joan. Let's turn it over to Rachel and to Sina to any additional comments you'd like to make?
I will also echo the fact about vendor fees. Please pay them. I will say that I always say that I'm such a hard butt during the season, and then I'm just like a baby with vendor fees. And I don't like chasing people down, but also like, again, we're running a business too. And it's really hard, but also please pay your vendor fees. And also, put everything into your vendor application. I also use Manage My Market, and one of the reasons why I did not accept a vendor last year was that they sold oils and they put that they make oils out of all these different ingredients, but they didn't tell me where they sourced it from. They said that they had all these different types of vegetables, but they didn't tell me where they sourced their vegetables and their fruits from. And when I emailed them, I never heard anything back. So I thought that was very disrespectful, and I didn't like that. So they eventually got a rejection letter from me. So again, these are the type of things that we're looking at from our end as managers on the back end when you're using, when you're doing an application. I saw that in the chat about Manage My Market platform. I've been using it since we've started, and I love it 100%. And we will continue to use Manage My Market as a platform for invoicing and for applications. But yeah, pay your fees. And like I said, for us, we what we look for vendors is what our community asks for. And our community, even though we have a beautiful, wonderful coffee shop a block away from our market, everyone asks for a coffee vendor at our market. It took us 7 years, and we finally got a coffee vendor, and you would have thought that it was Christmas morning last year when we introduced our coffee vendor. It was the best thing on the planet, apparently. And so now we will always have at least one coffee vendor, even though we have a beautiful coffee shop that we have talked to, and they said it does not hurt them. So again, like Joan has said, it depends on your location, and depends on the area, and it depends on what your community asks for. So you never know. And like I said, GSM caters to what people ask for. And like I said, we are basically built up like a grocery store. So yeah, that's what I will say. And I'll throw it over to Sina now to talk a little bit more.
Thank you. Yeah, just to piggyback, please pay those vendor fees. Please also, we are, as managers, we do our best to be in front of a lot of different things. So if we sign you somewhere, please accept it and not tussle with us on the day of the event. I would just say for potential vendors, my couple tips are preparation and presentation are really key and crucial. So research your market, the community. It's also really important to maintain a professional appearance and a professional setup with clear pricing and those kinds of things, signage. I also look for potential vendors that are really passionate about their products and services. They have a really solid understanding of their craft, who their target audience is, the problem that they're solving for their customer. And I would also say that effective marketing, so engaging with your customers, offering samples, educational tips, and also having a story behind why you started your business are all things that I think are beneficial for potential vendors to keep in mind. And those are things that I'm looking for as a market manager when I am doing my vendor selection for the season. So I would just say, just make sure that you're prepared and you're always presenting yourself in a professional manner, because we do look at so many different things to make those selections. So,
well, thank you all. We do have a couple questions in the chat. Again, suggestions for new or rotating vendors to have more visibility online and during the market. What would you all suggest? I heard a couple things when you were presenting. I heard sampling. That's a big one. If you're new, giving
But
customers a sample.
make sure you get your sanitation. If you're doing samples, there are rules about samples. You can't just cut food. There are rules. Remember that, everyone. There are
yeah,
rules.
I think
Right,
the
if you're-
Illinois
Yeah,
Restaurant
there's rules in
Association.
Chicago. I don't know what it's like
Yes,
outside.
there's
the
a
city.
state level
yeah.
rule. There, in Chicago, you have to have a summer sanitation certificate.
Mhm.
For the rest of the state, you have to have a sampling certificate that is a state level certificate. So either way, you can't just pull out a knife and start cutting things. And there are ways that it needs to be presented. It's not hard. It's made to be easy, but I don't know if anybody on this call has ever been to like a Costco, but I call it the Costco model.
Mhm.
Farmers markets do really, really well when you see it, you taste it,
Mhm.
and then what do?
Got it.
You buy it, right then and there, even if it wasn't even on your radar for something that you were thinking about for today. So I think those samples are really, really huge.
I would
Excuse
also
me.
say, I'm sorry, Jenny, I don't mean
No,
to
that's
interrupt,
fine.
but I would also say, the person who asked this, Maru, an online presence, and I will tell you, I'm not of a generation that's like grew up online, but I will say that I have so many vendors who like post day of, and I think it really does affect people because people are like, oh, right. So and so's at the market, especially if like you're a rotating vendor, you're a pop-up vendor, people do follow, even, like, so I have a lot of vendors who'll do like a reel at the beginning of the market and they'll post it on their Instagram feed. And then I really do think it brings people in. And if they tag the market, then, that helps us as well. So I feel like if you're trying to get recognition at a market, doing that piece for yourself and not just expecting the market to do it is really important, and will give you more visibility.
Yeah, it also depends too where you're located. Because for me, at our market, sorry, the sun has decided to hit the building and go into my face. We have one major flower vendor, Milwaukee Homegrown. They have no social media. They are a just small little farm out of, right outside of Milwaukee, and they don't need it. Our community sells them out in 2 hours. Like, they do not need it. Everyone loves their flowers, to the point where I've allowed the sister of Vanjie's, who is Yangtown Farm, they now sell flowers, and Lions, my other farm, now sells flowers, to the fact that we needed more flowers because they just had, that was the one huge thing that exploded, because they didn't need any type of social media presence, because people just saw flowers walking in the neighborhood, and it was such
Flowers
a wonderful.
sell themselves.
They sell
Flowers
themselves.
sell themselves.
Flowers
if
sell
you have
themselves.
If you have good flowers,
if you have good flowers, they
yeah.
sell themselves. Just
Yeah.
so it
Yeah,
depends
yeah.
on where you're located, at least. So if you're just a beautiful bouquet, will literally sell itself.
Right. We did have another question. Just for clarification, I guess there are 3 ways to sample. Under the cottage food law, there are specific rules and regulations. There is an Illinois sampling certificate that is a separate thing. And then in Chicago, there's this Chicago sanitation certificate. It's called the summer sanitation course. So depending on where you're located, depending what type of product you have, there are 3 different sampling rules that you can follow, and you don't have to follow all 3. But if you change, this is what gets confusing. We often have vendors that change locations. So you're selling in the suburbs and you need an Illinois sampler certificate there. And then you go to Chicago, you need a different certificate. So again, it pays to understand where you're located, where you're going to be selling, and then ask the questions about the differences between the certifications.
And if you're doing
required.
cottage, you're not allowed to do sampling at all. So
now that's not true around the state.
So at least for my cottage food vendor, she's not allowed to do any sampling at our farmers market, according to her.
That could be something specific. Mary Liz will give us some
sorry, I just
on that. She's
sorry.
our expert.
You got my attention on that.
Sorry.
So yes, if you are a cottage food vendor throughout the state of Illinois, you are allowed to do samples. So I don't know why she thinks
Okay,
she's
so
not
I
allowed.
wonder, that's okay. I'll ask her.
If you're doing on-site samples, your cottage food registration will allow you to do that, but you're going to have to set up a hand washing station.
Okay,
and
then
that
maybe
sort of
that's
thing.
what it is. Okay,
Right.
So
If you prepare those samples in your home and package them in your home, sample size, just hand them out all day long. Nobody's going to care.
Cool. Then maybe I'll ask her about that, because I've asked her if she would want to do that, and she's repeatedly told me no. So cool. I will.
And maybe that's a separate conversation she had with her health department.
Yeah. All right. I think there was one other question we did not answer. Oh, here it is. Are more interactive music, video, touch screens, demonstrations, workshops, etc., stall booth typically allowed? So if you wanted to add something like that to your stall, would that be something that's allowed?
We would allow it, but we don't have any electrical access. So you'd have to, and we're very picky about generators because they're noisy and smelly. I would say, and I'd be really curious to hear what Rachel and Tessina say. I should also say we're a food only market. So it's not like we're doing non-food product. I feel, but even in that case, I feel like your product is what you want to showcase. I mean, like we have, like our meat vendor has pictures of all the animals and the farm, and it's gorgeous and wonderful. But everybody else, pretty much, it's just you want to showcase the product to its maximum because that's what people really want to see. That would be my 2 cents, but I'm really curious to hear what other people have to say.
Yeah, we only allowed generators during COVID when we were in a parking lot, and he was in the very back of the parking lot, so it was loud in the back. We do have electricity only under our pergola, and we only allow our meat vendor to plug in their freezers, and that's it. That's the only thing we allow. And we're also food only except for the flowers. That's the only non-food item that we don't have. But other than that, we don't do music, we don't do anything like that. So I mean, vendors are allowed to bring, iPads and all that stuff, but again, like you're selling, your product, like you're selling your product. If most of our vendors have super cute drawn out displays on their on their cards, and they spend a lot of time doing that. So if that's what the generation is moving towards, their cool little touchscreen stuff, that's great. But a lot of the time it's like handwritten cards that people are looking at their booths that they're coming up to see.
Yeah, I would say, so we are a mix. We have some producers and then some makers at our market. And we don't have a specific rule that prohibits like touchscreen or interactive things, but we are located in an outdoor site, so we don't have the electricity and things like that. So it would, the vendor would have to be really creative to provide power to those kinds of things, but we don't have any restriction around it.
Yep, I think that would be, again, market to market. I know when we talked about branding 2 weeks ago, was it now? The farm that was present on the call uses a huge banner that she puts out, except on windy days, that tells the farm story. And that's another alternative that wouldn't be dependent on electricity. But again, I get something to talk to your market manager about. Electricity does tend to be in demand commodity, at farmers markets. And usually it would be the food people that are dependent on certain time and temperature that would get priority for electrical outlets. So, okay. All right. Any other questions? Boy, all right, it's after 1 o'clock. Thank you all for staying. I appreciate the input of Joan and Rachel and Tessina, and really appreciate all of you attending. I do hope that you may join us next week. We're going to be talking about scaling your business. And so that presentation is next Tuesday, the 10th at 12 o'clock. So we do hope that you'll join us. This is being recorded, and when it is available, it will be on the ILFM website, and I think Anthony has been sending out a link as well. So we will post those and look forward to further discussion next week. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank y'all. See you later.
Thanks, everybody.